right, so this video just popped up on my homepage. I just reacted to Omizi, so it's like, dang, I'm doing a lot of reactions by him. But Pokimane thinks there's a problem with streaming. I really got to hear this because I ain't gonna lie, y'all know the Simp Army go to fight hard for Pokimane. So we finna see what she's talking about, man. Hopefully these boys don't run down in my comment section.
As much as I think Kai and Speed are incredible, also when I think of them, I think of how much the audience has changed over the years as well. They're both two like young dudes who do kind of like crazy wild things. Unfortunately, there just aren't that many huge female streamers, at least not on their level. Nowadays, the audience has gone more to being a lot of like younger dudes, which is amazing. I remember
I mean, bro, this is simple though. This is a simple explanation for this, right? People watch what they can relate to. You can relate to younger guys wilding out, trying to have fun, doing things with their friends. Like most female streamers, because majority streaming is dominated by men and it's viewed more by men. Like most of the time you're gonna see a big female streamer is normally because she's attractive. Let's just call it a spade a spade. Like as men, like to become a streamer, you have to be like a top streamer. You have to be entertaining, really good at what you do. As a woman, you just have to really be attractive. Now, there are plenty of women streamers who are good at what they do. I'm not saying that that's not the case, but that's just how I view it. Like they're more relatable.
During the pandemic, I felt a much larger female presence, both in the audience and in regards to the streamers that we were seeing growing and becoming more popular.
Pokey, you could have did so much better than that. Pokimane is one of the most well-known streamers on the platform. And I'm talking about well-known, not like fake well-known like some of these other people. But she has risen to the ranks. And just crossing over that decade threshold, it was natural that Colin and Samir get her on an interview to ask her some questions about how she feels about streaming, the landscape, you know, her life, etc., etc. She goes on to make a specific remark about Kai Cenat and I Show Speed. And I'm trying to figure out what the reason as to why was, other than, I hate to say it, there's a little hate in this message. The first thing I want to point out is I don't understand why people make these comparisons to the top of the top. There's no female streamers to the level of Kai or Speed. There's not really any streamers to the level of Kai or Speed. Kai and Speed are on a whole different level themselves.
That's another valid point. That is another valid point. Like, how many streamers can you name that are on Kai and Speed's level? I'd say maybe in the world 5. Not even that. Probably 3, 2. It's not many. It's not many at all.
Male or female. And I guess since there's duplicates of them, you're gonna say, well, there's 2 males and there's not any females. But I don't understand why there's this conversation about, oh, wow, we can compare them to Kai and Speed. They're the biggest of the big. Just say that there's no big female streamers. Ignoring yourself, of course, obviously. Now, is what she's saying true? Maybe. It depends on what metric that you're looking at. If you look at like the top 20 sub streamers, I think she is the only one that is female. So there is some credibility in that fact. If we just look at the top, there's only one woman and it's her. Now, I do want to give Pokimane some grace here and take her just a little bit serious to try to dissect what she's saying here. People are slandering her left, right, and sideways on the timeline, talking about how she looks with no makeup, talking about women doing OnlyFans, talking about her cookie scandal, which is actually something that is credible. They're also slandering her this week because of the comments that she made about the Kendrick Lamar performance, where she said that white people don't have to love it or something like that.
As a white passing person, the people that I saw with this take the most were white men. Ain't nothing wrong with being a white man. That's not the point. I feel like if you watched his performance and really took it in, you'd be like, there are some underlying messages that the
We all know Kendrick's a woke rapper, but I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna be honest. This is perspective of a black man, right? Okay. A lot of white men didn't know what the hell was going on. I work in the South with plenty of white men at my job, and I heard them talking about it. They discussed it with me, asked me what did I think, because they didn't know about rap, they didn't know about Kendrick Lamar, they didn't know the beef existed, they knew nothing, okay? So they were telling me, like, well, I'm not gonna lie, like, the music, like, I was nodding my head to the beat, but I really didn't understand what was going on and why everybody was so hyped. I didn't know about the beef. Like, they were asking me questions. So let's just be real for a second here. It could have been any rapper, unless it would have been an old head rapper. Those old white men don't know what the hell is going on.
performance is trying to convey, especially during Black History Month.
So because she's been getting cooked over the week, I decided to meet this conversation with a little bit more compassion before I go ahead for the slam dunk. I think it's worth noting that as time has progressed, more and more of the audience itself has shifted more female. Pokimane made a comment in this specific interview that the audience is a reflection of who's at the top. I would say that that's a little bit of cap, because ultimately over the past couple of years, the trend has been seeing that women have started to participate more and more and more and more on Twitch. And I'm talking about from a viewer's perspective. Now, why that?
Well, let's be real. Let's not act like it's a 50-50. Let's not sit here and act like it's a 50-50 between male viewers and female viewers, especially in each community. Because if you're talking about like the W and L community, that's a huge, constant growing community. And there's way more men in W or L community than the women. You got to get all the way specific if we're going to talk about it.
That's important to me is because ultimately, as viewers themselves continue to watch and consume this type of content, naturally you would think that they would flow into making and creating this content. You know, the old adage, be the change that you want to see. If there's not a lot of female streamers that are on the platform right now, that's probably because they are in the audience watching and waiting and planning and plotting till one day they decide to bust out the camera. And speaking of busting out the camera, this is not sexual in any way, but I gotta remember all the times in the past when women have busted out the camera on Twitch. It's to push those TOSs that were going on back a couple years ago. Whether it was the hot tub streams, whether it was the jogging on the treadmills with the green screen shorts and green screen bra, having people look at the images on there and getting away with that. Whether it was when twerking was allowed for like a week and Twitch quickly realized that that was totally unnecessary. I promise you, if I go on Twitch right now, there's going to be a lot of people, women specifically, that are still bending and...
You know something though? You know something? Okay. I'm gonna take a wild guess. I want to make an example. I want y'all to tell me what you think. Wouldn't that be the same as a man who creates content on OnlyFans saying, well, oh, the top person is Sophie Rain or whatever her name is. Like, why isn't it more men at the top? Why are women doing so much better? Like, think about it. Think the audience is mostly men, usually straight men or men who have interest in seeing women. Women are going to dominate on OnlyFans on average more than a man would. I mean, I don't know.
Breaking those TOS requirements and agreements that Twitch has. And that's no knock, but when given the opportunity to take over streaming in a major way, a lot of them decided to sexualize the content. Specifically, people like Amaranth, who was a content creator first and then shifted over into the OnlyFans lane, and now I think is head first into OnlyFans. And don't get me wrong, there's probably a conversation about how easy it is for women to fall down that path of doing OnlyFans, especially on platforms that are still very much male dominated if we look at those audience statistics again. But that does not mean that you always take that path, because the long term does not prove to be beneficial or fruitful. Now, this is her own personalized take from her experience, and I won't invalidate it. I would just challenge it. Pokimane, I don't understand where you are getting this from, what you are seeing. If you could kind of give a little bit more evidence or substantiate your claims just a little bit more, that would probably help a lot of people out and not give them the lane to basically dunk on you. I would challenge to ask why you feel it's important to note that in a male dominated space, males dominated. Like, I don't understand that logic or reasoning at all. If we think about the things that are popular on platforms like Twitch, on platforms like Kick, any other streaming platform, we're talking about video games, we're talking about reaction content, we're talking about e-dates, we're talking about pranks, we're talking about hanging out with the guys and just chatting it up, being in Discord, etc., etc. All those things are things that males predominantly do. So why?
Like I said from the jump of the video, it's more relatable.
It's such a conversation, or if there even is a conversation, to say that men are dominating the space or men are the main ones in this space from not only an audience perspective but from a creator's perspective as well. I don't think that I totally understand it, but she said it, so we're here now. I don't think that it's the most revolutionary or worthwhile thing to say that X group is dominating X niche. If we just look at things that maybe are stereotypes or make sense or whatever the case may be, there are always going to be a certain demographic of people that dominate a certain niche. And dominate might be too strong, but more so are prevalent in said niche. But that doesn't mean that everybody's caping for the representation in that field, because ultimately people don't like that field.
What's up? It's your girl Fly J, aka Big Foe, aka the biggest foe, and this is Do You Know Ball with Complex. The question is, do you watch basketball?
I do.
Do you watch women's basketball?
I do not.
Why?
Oh, you got me.
Did you watch the LSU versus Iowa game?
No, I didn't. I ain't
I mean, let's be real for a second here, bro. Men's basketball is more entertaining than women's basketball. Anybody who disagrees, I'm willing to step up to bat with you because, like, let's be real. Let's just be honest. Men's basketball is way more entertaining.
10. Let's go. I don't have time. I have no time.
More women need to watch the NBA. I never really rock with that sentiment because generally speaking, women don't rock with sports. So why is it that we're trying to do this crying out to say that, hey, women need to be forced to watch this thing in order to make this thing popular? That's not necessarily how it works. People tend to consume or patronize what they're interested in. That doesn't always mean that they're gonna be forced to watch something because this other marginalized group that they participate in starts to, I don't know, participate in said thing. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say is, historically speaking, women don't stream. So ultimately, they are not going to be at the top of these things. They're not the consumer of these things either. So they're not going to then in the next generations grow into being some of the top streamers of the world. And this is just historically speaking, of course. We have seen other niches in which women are dominating or thriving in right now. I watch a lot of the new era vlog content that's less edited, more authentic, and just nothing but straight vibes. And a lot of that is dominated by women. If you look at other niches like fashion and makeup, nobody's sitting here crying about men not dominating those spaces, or none of the faces at the top are held by men. It doesn't make sense to examine every single niche and feel like that there should be some sort of equality across the board if these are not things that this other subsection of people doesn't engage with. Nobody's looking at the car space and saying, oh, well, why aren't there more women into this? Women don't like cars as much as men do, historically speaking, so therefore it wouldn't be that way. Now, what I will give Pokimane is that if you compare 2023 versus 2021, there has been a decrease in female viewership when it comes to Twitch streaming as a whole. Now,
But everything I remember during COVID with big female streamers, like he said, was them just doing hot tub streams and half butt naked streams. Like, I don't remember too many female streamers blowing up off the same type of content the male streamers were blowing up off of. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's an invalid argument almost.
I do believe that's because a lot of people, specifically women, weren't seeing that as a viable niche, and they didn't want to get caught up in the rigmarole and hullabaloo that a lot of the other female content creators on the platform were doing. You know, flashing their breasts, like they don't want to get caught up in that. So I understand going away from that niche. And for a long time, that place and space just seemed not so women friendly. I've talked about this on the channel before, but I don't believe that the streaming space for a long time, and maybe even to this day, has been women friendly because of the outcomes of the over-sexualization or just the mean-spirited comments, the constant.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have a negative connotation on female streamers. I don't think you should. I think they should have a fair shot just like men streamers should. It's just I feel like you build your reputation, man or woman, in life and streaming and anything. So if you start off, doing the inappropriate streams, just know people are going to look at you a certain way. But to get back to the point, bro, I just think, honestly, streaming is more male dominated, especially in the W and L community. And that's just a big, constantly growing community because it was a smaller community at one point where you had like Your Age, Bruce, Kai, and all of them. You had those guys streaming. Then it just grew bigger and more people keep joining it. More content creators keep joining it, and it's just popular. So, yeah. Pokimane, I see what you're saying, but I just disagree. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. I'm out.